let's do 429. Says Maran, Sho'alin b'hilchot Pesach, kodem la-Pesach. We start teaching the halachot of Pesach before Pesach, 30 yom, 30 days beforehand. You see that?
This up here?
Yeah.
This in here?
Haggah, says the Rama, uminhag liknot chitim, and it's a custom to buy grains. Lechalkam la'aniyim, to hand out to poor people, letzorich Pesach, for the needs of Pesach. So it's a custom the Jewish community has to actually help each other out with money. Today's money, but the grains, to help them have food to buy for Pesach.
Does this have to be matzah shmora in those days and things?
Anybody who lives in the city, Yudbet Chodesh, more than 12 months, they have to give to this cause. So what means, let's say you were driving through New York, you're just there for Shabbat. You have to give to the New Yorkers fund? No. But if you move there and you've lived there for 12 months, that's considered settled in a place.
So it's the only
Angel,
one.
welcome to San Diego.
Yeah.
Well, if you stay at Gypsy, then
You're a permanent resident once you've been there 12 months.
12 months.
Hey, what happened?
I know I better move.
En noflim, second halakha.
Wait, no, but now it says 428.
No, because you probably scrolled up. So scroll down till you go to 429. Don't do it too fast.
433. Oh.
we got the bill.
Halakha number 2. En noflim al pnehem bechol chodesh Nisan. We don't fall on our faces the whole month of Nisan. What is he talking about, Mara?
Yeah.
Prostrating.
Tachanun, when people do that.
You do it.
But isn't Maran Sephardic? He doesn't know that we don't put our faces down?
Yeah, it's a good question. I thought that's the first thing I thought.
Maybe they used to.
Say they used to. Why did they stop?
Because the Muslims did.
Close. That's pretty much the reason everything else happens, yeah? The reason why Sfaradim don't put their heads down anymore is because after the discovery of the Zohar says that if one puts down their head and they don't have the proper kavanah, when they say that paragraph
Where did I just read this?
of the David,
Probably
then it shortens a person's life, God forbid.
Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah.
in Ben Ishai this week.
So there were two solutions to this. The Ashkenazim said, okay, we want to keep putting our heads down. We're just going to change the chapter that we say. And that's why Ashkenazim don't say the David. They say a different chapter. V'emo David al Gad. It's a different chapter, they say. And therefore they can put their heads down because it doesn't apply to them because they're not reading the right chapter, which the Zohar would curse a person for reading incorrectly.
What's the whole idea of putting the head down?
It's like a prayer that kind of like out of
Yeah.
distress.
You're
almost.
Supposedly David HaMelech did that?
Yeah, a lot of people you find in the Talmud that they put their head down and they pray. What people do today like this, I don't know what that is. That's like checking your temperature. I'm not sure what they're trying to do. That doesn't count for Nitlat HaPayim. Also, the rabbi suggests that your arm has to be covered with a sleeve or something. So if people do it on their hand, they don't know. Should be. But really, what they mean by Nitlat HaPayim is something like this. Like that's how you pray if something bad happened to you. That's the idea. What is people like? It's good, but it's not Nitlat HaPayim.
Where does it come from?
Right.
I've
Is
seen
there a
it.
prayer like
It's from the Talmud. So the Zohar says that it's a problem. So what do the Ashkenazim do? They change the chapter. What do the Sfaradim do?
They don't
Stop
do
doing
it.
They don't.
The
Put
chapter
their-
must be very important. They just stop putting their head down.
Oh, okay.
Who gets themselves in trouble? The Hasidim.
Hmm.
See, what is Nusach Sfar that the Hasidim pray? It's
Modified
Ashkenaz Sidur with random quotes from the Sephardic Sidur. And so they have the right chapter of Tehillim, but they still maintain the Ashkenazi custom of putting their head down. They're the only people that are still doing this problem. I actually don't know what the Yemenites are doing. That's true. I don't know.
So we're not supposed to do that, even though it's in our siddur.
No, so we say we just don't put our head down. Maran is living before all of this happened in the Jewish community.
Okay. Prior to.
Yeah.
But if
Vein omrim tzidkatecha b'Shabbat b'mincha. And if Shabbat were to fall out in the Shabbats that fall out of the month of Nisan, we don't say tzidkatecha. What is tzidkatecha?
That's the thing.
By mincha, remember that tzidkatecha kehillat, and everyone repeats. We don't say that part. Ve'en masbidin bo, and we don't eulogize in the whole month of Nisan. So if someone passed away, we don't say eulogy. Ve'en mit'anin bo lahaskir b'tzibur, and we don't fast Any kind of fast which you would announce in the synagogue. So if it was like a communal fast day, if an individual wants to fast, it could be different. והבכורות מתענין בו בערב פסח.
Except for the one that are.
No, it says בכורות. It should be בכור.
Bechor.
No, Bechor. He says they fast on the eve of Pesach. Adds the Ramah. Gam ein omrim tziduk hadin bechol chodesh Nisan. We also don't say tziduk hadin the whole month of Nisan. Some we say when someone passes away, God forbid. V'nagу she'en v'tanmi v'tanit klal afilu yom shemet bo aviv v'imo. Says that we have a custom in Ashkenaz not to fast at all, even the day of a yortzeit of a mother or father, which in Ashkenaz that was the custom was to fast on the yortzeit.
Oh wow.
Aval tanit chalom mitanin. But if a person had a bad dream and they want to fast to get rid of that bad dream, they're allowed to.
That means that last year, in my situation, I shouldn't have said a eulogy at the grave because it was still during
It was in
Nisan.
Nisan. My grandmother
didn't
passed
know
away.
that.
It's very difficult to not say at the
And no one would have understood it anyway.
right. Vein omrim mizmor l'todah. Lishno halachically, what the custom is, if you were ever in New York and you wanted to be there for the yortzeit, the best thing to do would be to go as close to Nisan, but before Nisan, if possible. My sister-in-law always has this problem. She has an uncle who's buried here, and she only comes really for Pesach, and she always wants to go to his grave, but she can't because we don't go to the cemetery during the month of Nisan. So she sometimes comes on a different holiday, or she stays a few days after Pesach, or whatever it could be. But Vein omrim mizmor l'todah. We don't say mizmor l'todah. That's an interesting thing. It's a custom of the Ashkenazim.
What halacha are we reading?
The second halacha of 429.
Now, the Ashkenazim don't say Mizmor Todah on Shabbat, but we do.
Right. We don't say on Shabbat either. We don't. But they have a lot of days they skip it. We don't have those days.
Oh,
reason
you're
is-
talking about a different one. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
different.
Eve to
Yeah,
Hashem
you're
Simcha.
talking about no. This is the same one, but you're talking about Friday night, and we're
Yeah.
talking about Shabbat morning. Ashkenazim connect this prayer to the Todah offering that was in the temple, and whenever you don't offer that offering, they don't say it either. That's also why Ashkenazim have a custom to stand for Mizmor Todah, because Mizmor Todah, you have to stand while offering that offering. But the Ben Ish Chai says this has nothing to do with the offering of the Todah. He disagrees, and he says, "So sit during Mizmor Todah, and you say it every day because it has nothing to do with that offering, so there's no reason to edit it out." There's no right or wrong answer here. There are Sephardic communities that skipped it, also like Ashkenazim. Velech hapayim v'lemnatzeach. Which lemnatzeach is he talking about?
That's how David.
Exactly. Yadcha Adonai b'yom tzara, between Ashrei and Uval Tzion of Shacharit. All the things you would skip on a happy day, you skip on the eve of Pesach. Be'erev Pesach v'lo b'yom tov. V'noagim la'arbot tzad b'achila u'shtiyah b'yom achal hachag. There's a custom based on the Talmud from the laws of Sukkot, says the Rama, to eat a little more or drink a little more than you normally do the day after Pesach. V'hu
Isru
Isru Chag, because it's called Isru Chag, like it's a leftover holiday. It's an extra day of that you kind of celebrate.
Does that influence my Mimuna?
Interesting enough, it seems not. Mimuna is a very interesting custom. Why there even is a Mimuna custom? But let's say that many hold the Mimuna custom was meant to bring about a certain level of joy for people who wouldn't eat in each other's houses the whole Pesach, or there were, sometimes people were alone with their families. It was meant to bring everybody together again after a holiday. In fact, there is a custom in many Moroccan communities of doing the Mimuna the next day after Pesach. Because many rabbis in the Moroccan community saw that the ladies were under so much pressure to bake cakes and cookies and
On the
mufletas, those
holiday.
pancakes, that already before Pesach was over, they started buying flour from the Arabs and cooking. And so there were two ways that the custom was solved. If you, for example, Danny probably did it at least once or twice in Israel at Pesach. And many have a custom to make like marzipan cookies out of almonds.
Yeah.
The reason for that
Almond
is the
flour.
rabbis allowed them to make mimuna at night as long as they would use non-chametz ingredients. That's why they do those almond cookies. Or some had a custom to do chametz, but the next day. Today, really, it's become everyone's doing it the night of, and we just try to make sure that nobody breaks the law.
Yeah.
But if you have someone hosting 1,000-person mimuna and it's an hour after Pesach, you probably could assume that it's not kosher.
And usually after usually after Pesach, you're saying like I need at least 2 hours to.
But I think we started
Chametz.
mimuna like at 10 o'clock at night or something. We wait very late until we buy back the chametz and we have time to make things.
Yeah, it was.
But right, it doesn't seem though that this is what's influencing mimuna.
Yeah.
Shoalim bichot Pesach kodem lePesach 30 yom. This is what our parents did for us. They gave us a gift of not ever having to break away all the commentaries. He just tells you whatever you need to know on every siman. So that's a quote from Shulchan Aruch. That's what we read, that 30 days before Pesach, you study the laws of Pesach.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You always talked about Rabbi Yosef's library. What's Rabbi Peretz's library?
What's Rabbi Peretz's library?
Is it close?
Most of Rabbi Peretz's library is hidden. It's in cabinets that have doors. No, it's not as big
That's
at
why
all.
they notice a book.
Rav Peretz's whole attitude towards halakha is, the more you feel you have to prove something, the more it looks like what you're trying to prove is questionable. And so his whole thing is, if he sticks to 2 or 3 sources, as long as they're truthful sources, I don't need to bring you 100. Rabbi Yosef, on the smallest point, will bring you literally 30, 40, 50 sources. And Rav Peretz's whole approach is that may have worked for Rabbi Yosef, but his approach is to be much more concise when it comes to sources.
Wasn't the Rambam also like that? Really?
Yeah, it's the old. Rabbi Yosef kind of blazed a new trail, which was incredible, but not everyone has to be that type. You have to be a very special thinker. I'm going to tell you the truth. HaRav Peretz, I wouldn't categorize him, and I'm not saying this out of respect, I wouldn't categorize him as a genius. His approach to Torah is not genius. Rabbi Yosef is
It's more
genius.
constancy is
This consistency is one, and
Accessibility.
a certain straightforwardness. Nothing phases. The different opinions, it's a certain approach, like a blazing straight ahead, regardless of what everyone else says.
Like the Torah.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's much more similar for me to the Rambam than many other. Not necessarily as I'm a Manadian, but in that attitude. And I think HaRav Peretz would be very fine if I didn't call him a genius. Mishnah Berurah. That Mem Bet stands for Mishnah Berurah. Who wrote the Mishnah Berurah?
Yes.
You got some tip of your tongues there.
Yes, I know.
Sinai?
Chavetz?
Hafetz Chaim.
Chavetz Chaim, very good. He says, Uviyom Tov Gufa, and on Yom Tov itself, says the Mishnah Berurah, Lekule Alma tzarich lishol lidrosh bechol Yom Tov behilchotav. Every holiday you have to be dealing on that holiday with the halachot. So, of course, 30 days before you should start studying the halachot, but on Pesach you must be studying the laws of Pesach. On Sukkot you must be studying the laws of Sukkot. That's for sure part of the mitzvah of that holiday. Uchedeita besof Megillah, like is found in the end of Megillah. If it's hard to read, I know it's handwriting. But between Rav Yosef Masasa and Peretz, you're going to be Hebrew professionals at the end of this. Moshe tiken lehem l'Yisrael. Moshe established for the Jewish people, sheyehu sho'alin v'dorshim, that they would start asking questions and teaching. Be'inyano shel yom. I'm 3 lines down from the top. Be'inyano shel yom, and the matters of that day, the halachot of that day. Hilchot Pesach bePesach. The laws of Pesach on Pesach. Hilchot Atzeret beAtzeret. The laws of what's Atzeret?
Shmini Atzeret.
Shmini
What is
The
Atzeret?
end. The ending
Oh, what does it mean?
stops.
Is not Shavuot Chag Atzeret?
Oh, you're right, it is.
Did I make that up?
No. It's the end of.
Shmini Atzeret is the Shmini Atzeret.
It's the end of.
I believe in Shavuot. Shavuot.
Well, it's an Atzeret to Pesach. because
Yes,
it's
one of
like
the 3
49
festivals.
Days, yeah.
Vilchot Chag b'Chag, and the laws of Chag. What is Chag?
The
Our
3
rabbis call
Shalosh
Sukkot
Regalim.
Chag. Sukkot is known
Sukkot
as
Chag.
Chag. V'samachta b'chagecha v'yita ach samech. Let's talk about Sukkot. Yes, we may apply it to other holidays, but Chag is Sukkot. So the source, what is he telling you? The source of this halakha comes from where?
The Orecha? Or wait.
Sukkot.
The Chavetz Chaim is telling you the source of Maran's halakha, which you have to study the halachot 30 days before the holiday, comes from
Atzeret.
a decree of Moshe Rabbeinu, which Moshe Rabbeinu ruled that 30 days before each Yom Tov you study the laws of Yom Tov. And it's a very old thing that 30 days before you should start studying. In fact, in Baltimore, when I was in yeshiva, they used to have like a halakha a day they would put up on the bulletin board. They used to study 1 halakha a day. And 30 days before every holiday, they would put up halachot only relating to that holiday. So you knew you were 30 days before the holiday when it started telling you the halachot of that holiday. Shloshim Yom.
So it's not just for Pesach.
No, it's for every. Shloshim Yom, that's where it says Bet. You see Bet on page 6?
It keeps closing it. And
Why?
I don't know why.
You may have
Study.
too many windows open.
Which
Or do you have a
page?
Google phone or a Apple?
Samsung. Yes, Samsung.
Page
Mishnah Berurah
7
says,
is
Close on your
Umatchilim,
windows.
when are you supposed to start studying the laws of Pesach?
30 days before.
Before.
What is 30 days before Pesach?
Purim.
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 Purim is exactly 30 days before
really?
the Seder.
Don't they have the same letters or something? Just kidding.
You did mention it in Purim, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Why did I do that? Because the halacha is umatchilin b'Purim atzmo. You start studying the laws of Pesach on Purim.
Yeah.
Which sounds funny kind of on Purim to talk about Pesach, but you do. V'achshav, and nowadays, nohagim lidrosh b'Shabbat Hagadol. The custom is to to give a speech on Shabbat Hagadol, which is Shabbat Hagadol.
The Shabbat before Pesach.
Shabbat before Pesach.
Tzita's
V'haikar leharot la'am darchei Hashem. And the main thing of this day of that speech is to teach the people the ways of Hashem. Lilmod ha'maaseh asher yasun. To teach them the things which they need to know how to do. This is very interesting because I don't do this on Shabbat Hagadol. Dehainu dinei hagala. You have to teach them how to kasher their dishes. Ubiur chametz, and how to burn their chametz. V'afiat hamatzah, to teach them how to bake matzot. V'shar yichot Pesach, and the rest of the laws of Pesach. It wasn't a 1 hour speech. It was literally you were there Shabbat afternoon learning all of the halachot of Pesach over again. I do this instead on that Sunday night. What I found is on Shabbat people are not in the headspace to study halacha. For whatever reason, their head is all over the place.
That's a good
So you need to have a dedicated time. People have pencils, they have notebooks, they have lights. Like when the sun is setting on Shabbat afternoon, people need to be thinking about something that's relevant to them, and that's why we do it the way we do it. But in any case, regardless of the rabbi's obligation to teach you these halachot, mitzvah lekol echad la'asok b'ilchot Pesach. Everyone has an obligation independently to study the laws of Pesach. Lamed yom kodem, 30 days before, v'chen b'chag atzmo, and also on the holiday itself. So Mishnah Berurah adds in here something interesting, and he says that really the rabbi has an obligation to teach the nation the laws of Pesach. But even if he doesn't, or even if he does, you still have your own personal obligation to study these halachot on your own. Baruch, the email list you sign up to, they already send you Hilchot Pesach? Not
no,
yet.
they haven't yet.
Not yet. Okay. If I were to have an email list on halachot, I would already on Purim start sending people out the laws of Pesach.
Makes sense.
You always want to be prepared. Sometimes you come to the Seder, oh my gosh, I forgot how much karpas to eat, I forgot how much of a bracha I make. That's not the right way to come to the Seder. The Seder means organized.
Right.
You want to come
Order.
prepared for the Seder. To know what's going on by the Seder. So my Erev Pesach is the worst day of my year. I literally walk into Pesach. Pesach holiday is more difficult for me than Yom Kippur here. Most rabbis' high holidays is their season. Between the tours and the classes and the answering people's questions and kashering people's houses and telling people that they'll come burn their chametz at my house and selling the chametz and all the things that have to happen before Pesach happens and giving out the money to the poor people that we collect for and so on. Everything. I'm not home the day or 2 or 3 before Pesach starts. I literally walk into Pesach I'm lucky I get a shower and to put on my Yom Tov clothes.
Sounds like you need an assistant, really.
No, assistant couldn't. What's assistant going to do? I can't tell everybody who's going to take money and who's going to... I'm not complaining. I'm telling you that this Chag, if you have time, prepare. Sometimes I sit by the Seder, I'm like, I didn't prepare it all after the Seder. I'd have to recycle something I said 3 years ago. Baruch Hashem, what Hashem helps me
memory
is...
still works.
What Hashem helps me is...
3 years.
One year I had his Haggadah. The only Haggadah I remembered to bring was Rabbi Yosef's Haggadah. But for 4 years in a row, I already said, Rabbi Yosef's Chidushim and Haggadah. So I didn't know what to do. And in walked in a guest. You might remember him. Chaim Biton. Do you remember this man? He comes from Morocco.
Yeah.
Not the Chaim Biton from
Another
La
one.
Jolla. Chaim Biton, who was renovating the synagogue in Mogador in Morocco.
Oh yeah.
He randomly found out we moved here. He came just for one night. And
Where'd he go this?
and he asked me, he lives in Morocco most of the year.
Going
And he
back to
says,
second-
Rabbi, can I give you something? I said, yes.
Oh, because he's Israeli.
He said, please take this.
Oh.
I said, what is this?
When did he give you this?
It's
Last year?
no, the first year we had Pesach here.
Okay.
Actually, the second year. No, the first year. I'm right. Because we started after Pesach, like Shavuot time. So that first year was already our first. It was a year we were here. He did Haggadah. That's called the Haggadah of Chachmei Mogador, the sages of Mogador from Morocco.
Wow.
I never seen this Haggadah before. In fact, this was probably rushed to print because it has so many spelling mistakes inside of it. That someone was rushing to print it. But here it has under everything different quotes from different rabbis from Morocco. Divrei Torah for the Seder Pesach. It's
Wow.
printed by a French company, Tanu Rabbanan. They spell it in French. And these are from the handwritten manuscripts they have. And I thank God that things take time, tables to set up. I told my wife, Lori, I need to go sit outside for 5 minutes. And I started going through Haggadah, and that's a nice Torah, that's a Torah. And it sounded like I was a professional. I came to the Seder. This year, Seder's theme is going to be the sages of Mogador. So I always keep it here. I don't take it home the whole year. I leave it here because I never know next year, Pesach, what's going to happen if I get stuck. We're going to do a Mogador Seder all over again. That's the story of that Haggadah and why it sits right there the whole year.
So he gave it to you.
From there.
He gave it to me as a gift. In fact, he gave me another one for my house, so I have two.
Maybe he published it. Maybe he's the
I
secret.
think he might have been involved in here, because for sure he had like a lot of them to be giving out to people. He gave one to my parents, I think. Okay, this is a nice thing. He says here in Gimel, I'm going to show you where we are. Gimel is right here. It's under that line. Gimel?
Yeah, nice.
Okay. He writes here, Rama, he's quoting now from the Rama. Haminhag liknot chitim lechalkam laniyim. The custom is to gather grains and to give them out to the poor. So he quotes again, Membet, Mishnah Berurah. Hu minhag kadum. The Mishnah Berurah says, don't think that because Maran uses the word minhag that it's a new thing. This is an old, ancient minhag. Mizman hagmara. It's quoted already in the Talmud. V'huva b'Yerushalmi. It's already quoted in the Yerushalmi Talmud. So this is even before the Babylonian Talmud. V'cholim b'nei ha'ir lichfot ze lazeh ledavar zeh. The people of the city are allowed to force each other to give tzedakah for this fund. Meaning this is the kind of thing you don't have an option to exempt yourself from. It's okay for the people in the city to go and demand from you that you give your money to this Ma'al Chitim fund. How much do you have to give the poor person for Pesach? Enough that will last him for the whole Pesach. You have to take care of him for the whole Pesach. You should know. The Seder Pesach that we do and the meal subsequently, sometimes people go, those people, why did they come to your meal? They're not even part of our shul. And it's like, not visitors from out of town. Like sometimes you'll see random meals in my house. People come. And a lot of times what people don't know is that there are people who need help financially. They simply can't afford to make all the Yom Tov meals. And they're not willing to accept tzedakah, or we don't have an avenue with which to offer them tzedakah without embarrassing them. So what we do is we apply those funds to helping feed people. If it's at my house, sometimes it'll be at another rabbi's house. We'll help them cover certain costs for their meal so that they can host people who need money, but are not willing to take or are too proud to take. And that's something you'll see, like by the Seder, a rule of there's nobody that if you can't afford it, you can come anyways. Of course that's a rule, but the synagogue allows us to make money. There are people every year. Last year I had a student of mine from Yeshivat Oraita. He's a young guy, just started working in New York. He said, I'll take 10 people for the Seder. You send me a bill for it. And our Seder is very expensive. He took 10 people, he covered them, Baruch Hashem, and I had 10 seats to offer people who couldn't afford to pay for the Seder. So some years we say, don't worry, this year we have a senior citizen discount, or we have somebody who's looking for singles to come to the Seder. We have all kinds of stories we have every year. And I'm telling you here, not to embarrass anybody, this is a really old mitzvah. How can we sit at our tables and other people are going to sit with nothing?
First thing it says, all those who are hungry. With the
Correct. And that's part of the talk. In fact, Rabbi Yosef, he says that it's a joke in the Haggadah. He says you find the first thing they open up the Seder is, everyone who's hungry, come and eat. And then what did the kid do? After that, he gets on a chair and he says, why is tonight different from all other nights? But he's asking his dad, every other night, you hide from the poor people. You don't want to help them. Why tonight, all of a sudden, you're announcing, anybody who's hungry, come and eat? And what does the father answer him? Says Rabbi Yosef, I used to be a slave to my Yitzhara. Now I decided to be a free person to help other people. There's a tshuva that happens at the Seder. And you find that when we're in the spirit of the holiday, there's this man.
Generosity.
He's a non-Jewish man. He has a famous millionaire, what he is. Kevin O'Leary. You know who this person is?
I've heard of him, yeah.
He's famous. He's on a show called Shark Tank.
Oh,
Someone sent me a video of his talking about money.
he's the bald guy?
Yeah, bald guy, yes. He talks about money is the only important thing that matters in life. Nothing else
Does
matters
he have a nickname?
except Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, he calls himself wonderful. It's unbelievable. I've never seen such an egotistical. Someone said, you have to see this guy in action. Okay, he's giving a speech about money. How values? Who cares about values? Money is what's important. There's that money. Everything is money. There's that loyal monkey super.
He dresses.
No, for real. Yeah, everything for him is about money. So he was speaking about he has a business in which he deals in all things that have to do with weddings. You know, customized flower petals, whatever you need, plates, napkins, tables, balloons, whatever you need. He's in the wedding industry. He says the best industries to be in is the wedding industry and the funeral industry. And he said, why? He said, because it's all about the money, he says. He said,
About the
those are
what?
money. Those are two times in people's lives. One where they're too happy, and the second where they're grieving too much to make wise and intelligent decisions about their finances. And therefore, you can make a lot of money. He said, if a bride and groom come to you for their wedding, come on, you guys, you don't have the special velvet things you put on the top of the chair that says someone's name on it. What do you mean? Everybody's doing that nowadays. They never thought about it. Another $3,000 goes to the wedding planner, and then they just rake it up and up and up.
The most carefree shopper we ever had was an owner of the mortuary. Came in and was like very grand and just said like, oh yeah, that's really beautiful. I'll take 6 of those and
Sure, because he's probably not
and
lacking
just
any money. But then comes time to actually buy the ketubah. You can ask Dan for all kinds of the horror stories of, can we just get a photocopied one? Or can we get or mezuzah?
Mezuzah.
You're
yeah,
off
mezuzah.
Can you photocopy a mezuzah for us? Because people, when they're in these kind of occasions, they spend freely. But really, that's also a good thing. It's a good character trait. A lot of times we're more charitable to people around the times that we're happy.
Put that
than when
Xerox
we're...
mezuzah in a very pretty
Yeah.
box.
Day
$300
machsoro
for the
asher
cover.
ichsar lo. You see the ... Rav Peretz is telling me there's a lot of information in the Mishnah Berurah that he's skipping. ... I don't think you need to know it. It's irrelevant. Keep moving. That's what these notes are all about. Someone once called them the spark notes of Shulchan Aruch, but it's not really the cliff notes, whatever they. It doesn't. It's not the point. The point is, Peretz said he was a slave to these books his whole life, and he wanted to make sure his students study things that are very relevant to what they need to know. And the Mishnah Berurah ends with these words: "Dei machsoro asher ichsar lo." These are words that are used in Halacha to mean when you give a poor person, you don't give him like he's a poor person. You must fund him the way he lives when he had money. This is a halakha that most people don't know. In fact, the Western mind of charity doesn't tolerate this concept. But halakha demands this concept. If you need money, beggars can't be choosers. That's the thing you always hear. Beggars can't be choosers. You have to understand that a
Or
person...
imagine the impudence of you
Right, how
looking
dare
down
you,
your nose at my offer. Yeah.
Right. You don't know that a person who lives in a beach view home in La Jolla and drove 5 cars and had a special Sunday car that was number 6 and only ate in the finest restaurants and it was part of the greatest country club on the West Coast and now is impoverished, the bread and grape juice that you got from Ralph's on sale and the 2-week-old Manischewitz noodles and whatever it was expired, now that might work for a poor person. You give it to him and that's not tzedakah for him. He doesn't know what to do with it. And even if he did, it's so uncomfortable for him to be in that place. Now, again, at least he got something, right? But according to Halakha, technically, we would have an obligation as a Jewish community. We don't function anymore like a Jewish community. Remember I told you about central tzedakah funds and beidins that were on top of these things, and to make sure that you're actually giving an amount of tzedakah. Yeah. But technically, the community would decide this person needs to eat this kind of food, and this person eats that kind of food. It's not a democracy when it comes to tzedakah. And Peretz writes here from the Shaar that when giving people food for Pesach, you have to take into consideration what it is they eat. This could be something as simple as, don't drop off your schug at the Ashkenazi family that doesn't know what to do with it, and don't give gefilte fish to the Israeli family that just came here and doesn't eat it. If you want to do Pesach properly, and you want to give that money properly, do it in a way that is fair, or at least appropriate for the people that you're giving that tzedakah to. Which could be why the Jewish community today prefers to give money and do with it what you want. Sure, it hurts me very much when I see people collect a lot of money for this holiday and they give out to poor families. And these poor families are educated that the only things they could buy are specially marked kosher for Passover products. So let's say they got $200 for a holiday, or $300, I don't know, whatever they're $150 they got. If they would know how to buy things properly, they would be able to take this money and really stretch it to cover a lot of things. But because they go to, they're told you can only go buy that food, the OUP, so they go to Ralph's and they buy that cereal box that is $15.99. So you need 3 of those for the holidays. So your kids are going to want it. And then what happens? You end up, that money that tzedakah gave was not used properly. And so the people who think that they're being so holy really are ripping off the Jewish community who can't afford it. The wealthy people, They don't care they paid $50 for a box of cereal, and they have enough money to do everything. It's the person who doesn't have that really gets hurt by this holiday. I do tshuva every year. I used to come back from Baltimore, and I would tell my parents, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do the next thing. And today my mom was like, yeah, but 10 years ago you told me I can't eat this. I said, 10 years ago I was, what I say, we tell Hashem, we say, Chatot nurai ufsha'ai al tisko. Please don't remember the iniquities of my youth. So I tell my parents all the time. What did I know then? Then they told me, in yeshiva, I remember one of the rabbis came to give a speech. He was actually not from the yeshiva. He was like a kashrut expert they brought to speak at the yeshiva. He said, you can't buy dried fruits unless they're kosher for Passover. Because there was a factory once in Palm Springs that were drying dates with flour, and through the air conditioning vents there was flour flying to the next facility where it sprinkled all the dates on the table, and they all were really chametz dates and nobody knew about it. And I think that's such a far-fetched, so because of that, nobody can buy dried fruits that are. There's not even. Maran says unless you have a reason to assume that there's chametz inside of something, it doesn't have chametz inside of something. But I came home and my mother made charoset from, I don't know, whatever dates she bought in the store that were for sure kosher. No, I can't eat the charoset. I remember those things. And I'm upset. Not just that we weren't taught halacha properly, and it wasn't Baltimore's fault. Every Jewish community is like that. It's not a place. It's a sort of mentality that exists today in the Jewish world. It's not the yeshiva that made a mistake, but also this education of your parents don't know anything. And it could be that their parents don't know anything, but even especially with those parents, you have to be nice to them, because if you ever want them to know something, you want them to realize that religion was something good for them. But when you come home with this attitude of, I have siblings-in-law that won't eat by my father-in-law's house. If I was Pesach at my father-in-law's house, do you think that I wouldn't eat in his house? Of course I would, but he's Hasidic, so who cares? He's my father-in-law. He's a religious man who's holding the laws of Pesach, and we're not going to eat that. Other people say, no, the fish, we don't have a custom to eat this, a custom to that. By the way, my in-laws barely eat anything on Pesach. I don't know what you could have more of a custom of not eating that they don't already eat. But people don't eat there. And to me, that's the education is lacking, because really the laws of Pesach pale in comparison to that blemish of keeping that family unit alive.
It says in the Ten Commandments to honor your parents. So
Correct.
isn't that important?
Correct. Let me just read you one last sentence so that I can finish with this halacha, and we'll be over. The Ramah says, "V'chol mi shedar ba'ir yud bet chodesh," has to donate, whoever lives here for 12
Months.
For 12 months. משנה ברורה says, "וכן הדין ביחס לעני, שנחשב מעניי העיר בבית חודש, ושניהם אם דעתם נשתקע לאלתר דינם כאישי העיר." תושבי העיר, maybe. כיושבי העיר. Mishnah Berurah says that it works two ways. Just like you're not obligated to give unless you live here for 12 months, you also can't receive from the communal fund unless you've lived there for 12 months. He says, but there's an exception to this rule, which I guess you learned from Yechot Mezuzah. Once you know for sure you're staying here, let's say you bought a house in the city, then for sure you're considered a resident of the city even if 12 months didn't pass. I mean, once you decide that you're staying, you're here. So how long does a person have to live in Israel to be considered keeping one day of Yom Tov? It doesn't make a difference. As long as they've decided they live here, then they live here, tomorrow they already keep one day of Yom Tov. And even though Torah scholars are exempt from paying taxes, I don't know if you know this halacha. In the Jewish community, Torah scholars are not allowed to pay taxes. It's considered against halacha.
It's only in Israel, or?
No, in Israel, Torah scholars pay taxes. Trust me. It's in the Jewish Jewish law. If we were running a Jewish society, kind of like a Torah scholar is not allowed to wait in a line. Halachot like this. Part of the I can't teach the halachot. Someone else wants to learn the halachot. Even Torah scholars who are exempt from this have to give to this fund. But this is not a tax. This is a mitzvah that everyone has to be a part of. V'shur emtina, how much do you have to give? Everybody and the amount of money that they have. You know who you are, and you know that if you're a millionaire and you're only giving $10, I'm giving 2 times chai. Come on. And some people know that, listen, 1 times chai is very difficult for me this holiday. But you gave. As long as you were part of this mitzvah, and you did what is reasonable for you to do, you were part of this mitzvah. God willing, we'll continue this tomorrow.